Okay, we will call the special meeting for Monday, February 1st, 2021 to order. The first item on our agenda is a memo dated the 1st of February 1, 2021, proposed changes to the planning and zoning administrator position. Jenny?
Thank you, Mayor Ryan. Good evening, members of the council. Tonight, our first item on the agenda is to discuss my recommendation to modify the planning and zoning administrator's position. As you know, a couple of weeks ago, we received notice from our planning and zoning administrator, Brittany Kottner, that she had been offered a position elsewhere. And in reviewing and sort of reflecting on yet another turnover in that position, really started to ask the question about what, where the department was headed, where it should be headed, what are the city's needs, and trying to decide if there was an opportunity here to look at things a little bit differently. And with asking each of you individually to see if you had interest in pursuing that, and for me to spend some time looking at different job descriptions, responsibilities, and opportunities there. The council was very supportive of me doing that and looking into that. And so I dug in and pulled a bunch of job descriptions, different ways or opportunities to add responsibilities, training, things like that to the position. And what I have before you tonight is a recommendation to modify the planning and zoning administrator's position to become a city planner. What that does is allow for expanded educational requirements for the position, bringing more knowledge across all areas of planning and zoning, more broader county knowledge, environmental impacts that would help bring resources here to the city. And also include some things such as inspections, incorporating more inspections into the process for our permits and our applications. And I think will really just give us an opportunity to kind of step this forward and bring more rounded services to the city of Nisswa. So I have a proposed job description for you. So hopefully you've had a chance to review that. And in working with our consultant, Baker Tilly, they reviewed the proposed job description and had provided me with their determination that a city planner position would go from a grade 13 to a grade 15 on our pay scale. And my recommendation is for the council to approve that change in the position for the department as I presented. And then I would also recommend that the council offer this opportunity to our current planning and zoning administrator. And hopefully she would consider accepting that and staying with the city and working with me on some bigger projects and some neat additional opportunities for the role. So with that, I will leave it to the council for any questions.
Okay, questions? You want to start on one end and go to the other? Don?
Looking at the red markup sheet, just two comments. Number one, one of the things listed here is perform site inspections. I think that's one thing that we were really needing, that once we issue permits, we very seldom would go out and check to make sure that all the conditions were met. I think that's a very good change. Another, just a really minor change, is down towards the bottom when we talk about keeping up to date on economic and legal issues and building codes and stuff. I'd like to see just a little bit, maybe one sentence more in there, talking about looking at our comp plan, taking it off the shelf, and using that as a template to go ahead for long-range planning for the city. I think that we've spent a lot of time and energy and money on the comp plan. I think we need to use it a little bit more than we have. And it's not a major change to what's written here, but I think just a little bit more of an emphasis. Those are my comments.
I think that this is really a step in the right direction. I think that this is what, is just needed going forward. The only thing that I would maybe like to see added, and I'd actually like to see it possibly added to all the department heads' jobs, is that they come up with a 1-year, 5-year, and a 10-year plan for their departments. And I would just leave that to the personnel committee, but I think if everybody's thinking that way, then then you're gonna know for the next year of what you have on the agenda and then update it and always be, but otherwise, I'm very pleased with it.
Mark?
Yeah, after looking at what you proposed here, I really like what I'm seeing here, and that, especially I'd like to emphasize that the long-term plan. I think we need more of that for the future here, especially like even 10, 20 years down the road, what are we going to be doing as a city here? And I think that really needs to be a focus of a city planner rather than a city administrator, a planning and zoning administrator. So I really like this idea, and the change in salary is actually very good, I believe, with the change in the job description. So I'm all for that.
Yeah, I did ask, and just so, for people that are listening at home or for the audience, comparable worth comes into play here, and whether, even if you just left it at planning and zoning administrator, but you added these duties to the person's functions, the money's going to go up anyway. It has to, based on the comparable worth guidelines that we're, bound by state law to operate under. So I also like the idea of long-range planning. We've already run into enough issues. We seem to every year run into more that had we thought 20 years down the road, we'd be that much further ahead. At least the person that's building or going to build would have an idea of what they can do or how they can position something on a piece of property, or whether that piece of property is even something they want to deal with then, or if it just won't work for them. It would gives them that upfront look. So that's, with that, and unless anybody has anything else, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Oh,
well, I'll move we approve the change of the position in the city planner and zoning department from planning and zoning administrator to a city planner, and approve the city planner position at grade 15, and offer the opportunity for a current P and Z administrator to stay at the city of Nisswa as city planner at grade 15. And I think that covers it.
I'll second.
we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further comments, questions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passed.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the next item is interviews for prospective candidates to fill the vacancy on city council. And I believe Jenny, I'll turn that over to you. You were going to ask questions.
Great, thank you. I will help facilitate the process tonight. We had 4 candidates express interest in our vacant council position, which is wonderful. They are all here tonight, and what I will do is I have everybody's name in my jar here, and we'll draw for spots, and then we'll invite the first one to come to the front, and I'll help go through the questions, and you can kind of share a little bit about yourself with the council, and we'll go through all 4 candidates that way, and then at the end, the council can ask any follow-up questions, and then you can deliberate, and we'll go from there. So Mr. Galen Strovers will be our first person. Mr. Cameron Dorian will be number 2. Mr. Bob Fear will be number 3, and Mr. Mark Fraley will be number 4. So welcome. You are, we will get you started here. So, Mr. Struthers, the first question we have for you, why is serving on the City of Nisswa City Council important to you? Does your interest stem from a personal interest or goal? If the green light is on the microphone, I'm sorry, I didn't check it, just right in the middle. Thank
There we
you.
go. Hello. So I moved here with my family, my wife and 3 kids, roughly 3 years ago, 3 years ago this spring. And I've been involved, not at the city council level, but in smaller jobs, both politics and at the city council level. In the previous city in North Branch, where I lived before I moved up here. My family's been here for close to 80 years, my extended family in the area, not particularly in Nisswa, but in Cross Lake and in Brainerd and Baxter. So I've been coming up here all my life. When I moved up here, I was hired on by LCL Electronics in Baxter, Minnesota. We're a small defense contractor. And we were going through an ownership change because the previous owner had passed away and his son took over, and his son was not an engineer. I am. And he really wanted to take the company in a different direction and grow. And so that's why he hired me on. And since I've come on, we've gone from 4 employees to 17, and we've gone from roughly a $1 million a year company to close to an $18 million a year company. And my goal and his goal of growing our company has kind of come to a plateau where we're expanding our business, but we're not looking to actively grow it as far as employees go. And so my role has stepped back a little bit where I'm not quite so engaged as I used to be. And I'd like to become more engaged in the community. And so my biggest goal as a potential city councilman would be to act as a conduit between people in our community and you all. That's always been a goal of mine. It's always been something that I've taken a lot of pride in with every company that I've either run or that I've been involved with. Has always been a one of leadership and acting in the best interest of both the employees and management. And that's something that I think would complement you all very well.
Great, thank you. How would you describe your leadership style and how do you believe it would benefit the city council?
My leadership style is a combination of both democratic and also pace setting. I'd like to reach a consensus among as many people as I possibly can, taking into account their viewpoint, their experience, their life experience, and be able to combine that with what's needed at both the management level and employee level. And of course, in government, it would be replace management and employees with government and constituents. But I've always led by example. I will never ask anybody to do anything that I'm not willing to do. I don't tell anybody to do anything that I won't do. And it would be the same thing if I got to the city council. I would like to work with you all, and hopefully we all can reach consensus with the people that we represent. But one of the things that means a lot to me was what you guys were just talking about prior to my coming up here, and that's with long-term planning. Like I said, I came from North Branch, and that was something that was severely lacking with them. They had done long-term planning years and years ago, but unfortunately 2008, 2009 hit with the economy crashing, and the city had greatly overexpanded themselves with the anticipation of certain economic movement that never materialized. And it got them into a very deep hole. And I think had they done more long-term planning that was more realistic, they would have been in a much better financial situation. And that's something that's very important to me.
Thank you. Mr. Struthers, if you heard about something that concerns you in the city, as a council member, what steps would you take to see that this concern is resolved?
Like I said, I haven't lived here for a whole long time, so I'm not real in tune with a lot of the things that have happened in the past. The only things that I have heard have just been and a peripheral view through the radio about some issues with previous mayor and the police chief. I don't know what all the details are, and so I'm not going to go any further down that road, but there's just from the limited talking that I've done with my neighbors has been, they felt that it wasn't well overseen and that things got a little more out of control than they would have liked to seen. So I don't know if that could have been mitigated through appointing another, either a lawyer to oversee it or some sort of mitigation strategy that might not have been in place.
If the city could make one change or improvement, what would that change or improvement be?
Well, it's pretty much what you guys already covered, and that would be to do more long-term planning. I'm looking at hopefully adding on a shop on my property, and that's something that I was going to be coming to you all and doing more research into. But long-term planning to me is a big deal. It can mitigate a lot of potential pitfalls, both financially and with just the mood of the people in the community. If they feel that the city council and the government at large has taken steps in the right direction to ensure that there's going to be continuity in both their building practices and their business plan.
Great, thank you. Just for my end of things, I just want to make sure that you're available the third Tuesday of the month for regular council meetings.
Absolutely.
Wonderful, great. I will defer to Mayor Ryan if the council has any follow-up questions to ask.
Mark, do you have any follow-up questions?
No, not really.
Mark, Ross?
You had said that you had been kind of involved in North Branch. To what extent were you?
I was involved with a political party, not running for, I did actively run for city council years ago. That was when I owned a trucking company. Unfortunately, by the time that the decision came down to who was going to be chosen, my trucking company got too busy to the place where I could no longer fulfill that duty, and so I stepped aside.
Okay.
I used to go to a lot of city council meetings when I was there, and I was actively involved with their planning and zoning through my business, and then with my entire neighborhood, ended up going through quite a few different changes in their zoning and also with road construction going on. So I've been through quite a few city council meetings down there, but I've never held a public office position.
Thank you.
Don?
In addition to what you've told us, what other interests do you have? What do you do when you're not working?
My family dominates my life when I'm not at work. We moved up here for one because of my job offer with LCL, but also I've wanted to move up here pretty much my entire adult life. This is where I wanted to be. I lived up here briefly for about 9 months during my senior year. I moved from Iowa up here to live with my grandparents while I finished my senior year, and then I graduated early to go into the Navy. And I always wanted to make it back up here, and that finally became a reality. I love doing anything outdoors. I love boating, skiing, you name it, anything outdoors. My family and I are very active with, and so that's very important to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Dorian. Mr. Dorian, why is serving on the City of Nisswa City Council important to you? Does your interest stem from a personal interest or goal?
Service. That's the biggest reason for me. I had moved to Nisswa 22 years ago, and I have a wife and 2 kids. I've been involved in church leadership, volunteer trap shooting coach, volunteer baseball coach, outreach volunteer. I'm a Lions member, and I do a lot of volunteering for the chamber here in Nisswa. My wife's the president, so I don't really have a choice in that, but it's just that I love this town. There's nowhere else I'd rather be. And I just want to do my part to keep the town of Nisswa the greatest town in Minnesota.
Thank you.
But I have, I'm sorry, I have
Oh,
no
okay.
personal agendas or anything like that. There's no, I want to be a council member just to do my part and serve the community.
How would you describe your leadership style and how do you believe it would benefit the city council?
Fiscally conservative and common sense. I truly believe that most of the problems that we face in life can be solved with common sense. I don't think that things need to be as difficult as a lot of times they are made out to be. And as far as money goes and finances, I'm a business owner in town. I do business with a lot of people in town. I see the business side of Nisswa, and I see the volunteer side of Nisswa, and I see I'm a resident of Nisswa as well, so I see it all, and I just, I think that money just needs to be spent properly.
Mr. Dorian, if you heard about something that concerns you in the city, as a council member, what steps would you take to see that this concern is resolved?
What I wouldn't do is try to handle it by myself. I would, and I'm not sure what the protocol is, I would learn that as a council member, but I would most likely call the mayor and just, if it's a big deal, I would call the mayor or another member and say, hey, this is what's going on, and take it to the council. I just think that people that try to handle certain situations by themselves ends up doing more harm than good. So I would bring it to the council or the mayor or whoever I could get a hold of if it was something big.
If the city could make one change or improvement, what would that change or improvement be?
Long-term planning. That seems, in the 22 years I've been here, that seems to be the biggest thing that I've noticed is there just isn't that long-term goal. I think it's so important. And until I got the email from you and the changing of the planning and zoning, when I read that, I thought, wow, that's awesome. To have somebody that, when you get a permit, that site inspection and just keeping things on the up and up and making sure that everything's done properly. I know we've put additions on and added garages and things, and it's a very simple process in this one, but that's where it stopped. You pay your $50 and you get a piece of paper, and that was it, So I do like the fact that that is going to happen. That's very important. But yeah, really for me, it's just it's a long-term. I plan on living the rest of my life here, so I just want to make sure that it stays Nisswa.
Thank you. Just confirming you're available to attend regular council meetings on the
Yes.
third Tuesday? Wonderful. Mr. Mayor, I'll defer to you.
We'll start on the other end. Don?
In your application letter, you say that I would like to contribute to keeping Nisswa the best small town in Minnesota. Do you want to keep Nisswa a small town?
Yes, I do not want Nisswa to be Baxter, Brainerd, Bemidji. Absolutely. No, I don't. We need growth. There's no doubt about that, but we don't need our entire 371 corridor of Nisswa with strip malls and businesses. It needs to stay a nice, small, quaint Minnesota town. It'll lose its appeal, I believe, if it got too big.
Okay.
I don't have any.
Yeah, you mentioned that money needs to be spent properly. And where do you think the money should be properly spent?
Well, there's a lot of places to spend money in town. That's a decision that the council and people make, but you know, your infrastructure, your roads, it's just that, you know, sometimes things are spent and as a resident of Nisswa, I was like, well, that's, you know, I think we could spend money in different places. Of course, you know, over the last 22 years, I didn't know all the information about all the money spent, but I just make sure that the money that's being spent is being spent in a wise way that as a resident in this, of Nisswa, that I would feel comfortable with.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Fear.
Gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening. Mr. Fear, why is serving on the City of Nisswa City Council important to you? Does your interest stem from a personal interest or goal?
I would say that's definitely personal. My background is my family started coming up here in 1956. And that was a special place through when I was about 22 and moved out to California for career reasons. So Nisswa of old, Paul Bunyan land of old, there's fond memories. And I'm now pretty much retired as of 100% as of April 1st. I have time on my hands. And I feel my background, I'll skip the first 40 years of my life unless there's some specific questions, but my last real career position where I was facility manager for the Colorado division of Amgen, kind of have a rudimentary knowledge in projects and civil engineering and streets and stuff like that. And more important, that role had me being a team leader with my department and clients. And, you know, I learned by making some mistakes and I had a lot of good mentors and a little bit of training along the way. So it's kind of like what I can give back to the city. And I think I have a few tools to help the process.
Thank you. How would you describe your leadership style and how do you believe it would benefit the City Council?
Well, my leadership style has definitely evolved over time. My kids would tell you that, but I'd say I've learned to listen, start a conversation, but then quickly turn into the listening mode like 70% of the time and try to understand what the situation is, what my client or peer or team member, where they're coming from, not just in general, but also that day. If something's out of the norm, there's usually a reason for it. It may have nothing to do with the project or what the subject is at hand. So that's really important. So my leadership style is being a key part of a team, learning the strengths and weaknesses of my team members and what specifically I can rely on them for. And if I don't understand something, practice reflective listening, you know. Don, I saw you wink your eyes at me, so there's definitely a question you have, and I want you to follow up on it. This is just a theoretical example, but that's kind of my leadership style. I'll nudge you in one direction, and I may, if I'm in charge, I may make the final decision, but everybody's got an important point, and they deserve to be heard and understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fear, if you heard about something that concerns you in the city as a council member, what steps would you take to see that this concern is resolved?
Wow. That's a really wide open question. I guess if I heard about it, I'd try to understand fully what the person's saying. I try to get to the, if it's third-hand knowledge, I'd say, how do I validate that this is accurate and true and complete? And then quickly behind that question, I'd say, what's my role here? Should I just let this die? I don't want to be a purveyor of information. Or is it something that I like handling problems at the lowest level? So maybe it's like, hey, you need to, I had a client the other day when I was campaigning that started complaining about junk in their neighbor's yard. And so I printed off something from the city. It was in a sheet to be made out and given to the city planner and rolled it up and put it on her door. So I like to handle it, an issue at the lowest level of competency. Not everything needs to go to the mayor or the city administrator, but maybe it's appropriate. You know, so I'd like to validate the problem and handle it at the lowest level possible. And if it's just something totally irrelevant, you know, it dies with me. It's not my concern. If there's any questions about anything I said here, please pepper me. Thanks.
Thank you. If the city could make one change or improvement, what would that change or improvement be?
Just one comment, Willie? You know, I've probably said this several times, and I really have been a little disappointed at times at the attendance of some meetings when important decisions are made, and I'd like to do something on certain issues. I'd love to see 25 people or so, 30 in the audience. So what can we do to better engage our community? Because what I don't want to see, I remember about 4 years ago, there was some street project that the whole neighborhood got in arms over and was coming to 2-3 monthly meetings. And this is after we spent $30,000 in engineering. You know, so I want to get our clients more involved and solicit their opinions a little bit better than we are now. And I'm not saying anybody in front of me is doing a bad job, but I mean, you know, we've talked about SurveyMonkey and things like that, or, you know, or city newsletters, or, you know, just something to engage the community more. Personally, I think I heard something earlier on too about Nisswa. I kind of like the Nisswa at Old. I personally do not want to see what's happening on 371 come north. Now it's across from Long Lake. You'll see a storage center with 6 big storage buildings. You know, I personally was involved in helping comment on our policy on storage buildings, where, you know, I was involved in coming up with, well, we need to have some pine trees with certain height and density, so there's not eye blight, and there needs to be separation between like developments. You know, so I have some personal opinions that I'd like to see our master plan, I call it that, reviewed, almost required for every project. And we're in abidance by that, because I'm more of a green person than I am attracting thousands of jobs. Thank you.
And are you available to attend regular council meetings on the third Tuesday of the month?
With rare exception, yes.
Okay, great. Mr. Mayor?
Mark?
Nope, I don't have any.
Ross?
Nope, I don't have any at this point.
Done.
In a capsule form, what would your vision for the city be in the future?
Capsule form, vision for city development. Based on upon my experience, I really like, I want to get out of COVID, and I want to have, I really like our firecracker days, and I'd like to have unique holidays of celebration. I'd like to see our developing facilities attract more people. Nisswa Lake Park, Go Lake Trail. I spent 14 years in Boulder, a much bigger town, but we developed things like movie night, which we tried here. We had 300, 400, 500 people come. So I want to engage our community more and keep it a unique. I don't want to become Baxter. I want to keep it unique and somewhat green and somewhat friendly, kind of a vacation mecca. Hey, let's go into Nisswa, see what's happening.
Thank you.
I don't know. It's a tough question, Don.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Fraley?
Well, first of all, thank you for having us all here.
Thank you for being here. Why is serving on the City of Nisswa City Council important to you? Does your interest stem from a personal interest or goal?
Well, first of all, I'll give a little background to myself. I'm a 1982 graduate of Brainerd High School. From there, I went into the Navy, also with the National Guard there in Brainerd. Went to the VOTEC. While at the VOTEC, that's when I first piqued my interest for government, I guess, is because I was on a student council with the VOTEC there. I was married. Well, I got married, and so my wife and I spent the 26 years up in Bemidji, raised our children, always wanted to come back here. My wife was raised at Minnewawa Resort, which is now is the Minnesota Hockey Camps. And so I think why it's important for me is vision. You know, everybody said that, to see what Nisswa was. It was small resorts, it was recreational, small community. I think a city needs a vision. They need to see where do they want to be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. I think Nisswa is fine, doesn't really need expansion, but you know, maybe some adjustments here or there. I've been around the world, been around the country. I've seen different cities that you say, oh, they really have a vision. They have an identity, and they've put that vision out there, and they've worked towards that vision. You know, I mean, I look at Bemidji where we lived. They had a vision. Their downtown's vibrant. They don't have the huge strip malls on the highways. You know, and then you see another town, another city, and it's like it's nilly-willy. They just threw stuff up. You know, and seeing Brainerd and Baxter, what it was in the 70s and 80s to now, I mean, there was no vision. And so that's what's important for me, to have long-term goals and get there.
Thank you. How would you describe your leadership style, and how do you believe it would benefit the city council?
With the previous company I worked for in Bemidji, I was in management. Also had management positions in the military. The way I look at things is you have a project, you have a job that needs to be done. You hire competent people to do that, and you allow them to do it. And if there needs to be guidance, or if they want to come and ask you a question on how it needs to be done, go for it. Also feedback from those people that are doing the project or the job, to find out how it could be done better. And I'm not a micromanager. I mean, that's the worst thing you can do is, you know, I mean, especially with the city, you hire competent people to run departments and to do their jobs. And the worst thing you can do is start micromanaging them, get in their face. And the other thing too is you want to be available in case they want guidance, or, you know, and to hear their feedback on what they're doing.
If you heard about something that concerns you in the city, as a council member, what steps would you take to see that this concern is resolved?
Well, it would depend on the concern. I mean, if it's something small, and I can come to the city administrator, fine, resolve it that way. If it's something bigger, then I would go to the mayor, other council members. The other thing too is for me, it's very important not to hear rumor, not to hear gossip of something. I like to go to the person that has the concern or the problem. There was an incident in Nisswa where, you know, I started hearing all these different things, this and that. So I actually went to the people that were involved with it to hear their side of the story. And that's what I think needs to be done.
Thank you. If the city could make one change or improvement, what would that change or improvement be?
Like I said, vision. Just plan out a vision. City council also to take the input from the local business owners and also from the residents to see where they want to go, what their ideas are. You know, do they want to stay small? I mean, we can't go back, you know, so many years, but to see where they want to go and where the city council wants to go.
And are you available on the third Tuesday of the month?
Yes, I'm
Wonderful.
retired.
Perfect. Great. Mr. Mayor?
Don?
In your letter, you say this, and I quote, "I see Nisswa becoming a central bedroom community between the communities to our north and the Brainerd-Baxter area." Would you expand on that?
Right. So a vision that I've had for Nisswa is not to go nilly-willy enlargement, but what I'm seeing is, you know, a lot of people, you know, if you look at the Twin Cities, to start moving north, you know, and then Brainerd, I mean, some of the people that live in Brainerd and work there, they don't want to live in the Brainerd area. So they want to come up, I think, further north. I'm seeing some people that are moving to Pine River and so forth. So the vision would be as to how could we welcome that and how could we accommodate that and let it be known, but not to overexpand, if that makes any sense.
I'm good. Mark?
No, I'm good too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Council's turn to deliberate.
all right. I will open the conversation and let us say we have 4 good candidates in front of us. And, you know, we know why we're filling, it's a two-year role that we're filling. And I would welcome any feedback from the council members on ideas they want to discuss. Do we have an idea already? What? So what's important, I guess for me, I've heard from what's important for me, I've heard from everybody, the one thing was the long-term planning / vision. That's what I'm looking for. Of course, all 4 of our candidates hit that one. The other thing is that we have a certain way of, you know, we have policies in place, and anyone who becomes a member of the council is bound to follow the policies. And that goes from, you know, if they hear problems or if they have a problem or whatever, to act, you know, how we act in the community, everything, all, you know, and everyone will get, whoever is on council gets a copy of that. So I just would like to see, you know, in my opinion, the long-term planning and the big key for me is communication. People that are willing to communicate with the people they're liaison with, or with the council as a whole. Or if people come to them, they communicate. The two-way communication is huge. I don't think anybody up here on the council is a stranger to what I feel has been one of the biggest problems in the city for many, many, many years. And that is, I mean, going back, way back. And that is a lack of communication from the council level to in this case, the city administrator, priorly the city clerk, and to the department heads of what the council, or, you know, where we wanted to see things go, where we wanted to see departments go, what we wanted to see departments accomplish, goals from financial to community outreach. There just hasn't been that, and that's what we're really trying to get. That's what I'm pretty passionate about. So anyway, so Don, do you have?
Well, there were a lot of expressions here about long-term planning, as you pointed out, and a lot of discussion from some about communications with the people who live in town. And I don't think anybody disagrees with that. I also have found over the years, having a vision to correct these problems, it comes down to how do you do it? How do you get people to come out? How do you get people involved? And that's where many city councils fall down. They know what the issues are, but it's hard to get inside the people's heads and make them understand that it's important sometimes that they should listen to what's going on in the city. So the implementation is key in my mind. If you've got the vision, that's great, but how do you get there? If you don't have an endpoint, you can get there anyway, and you always get where you're going. So I was looking for someone here who would give me not only the vision, but how to arrive at that point, and how they express themselves. There were a couple of presentations tonight that were long and rambling and really didn't get to the question that was asked. I look at that. I look for some conciseness in the answers. Were they to the point, or were they kind of off and running around and doing other things with their answers? So those are the things that I was considering when I was looking at them.
Ross?
Yeah, I mean, you know, everyone had good points. There seems to be a general consensus about long-term planning, which is absolutely needed. And I guess I'm just, you know, there's points that each have brought up that I liked and I thought were beneficial. I guess you know, I'm with you, John, is that the council really needs to give, I think the good word or that I like to use is direction to the employees of the city. And that hasn't always been, so that's something that I'd like to work on. I guess I'm a little bit trying to figure out how we move to actually naming a person.
Do you have any particular feedback on that, or does it just to make a motion to accept someone and go from there and see where it goes, or what?
Maybe if, I don't know if Councilmember Utzinger has just any general comments, you could,
Yep.
you could give him a chance for that.
Yep.
And then, yes, that was going to be my suggestion is, I think you have 4 great candidates. I don't know that there's a wrong decision. So it's just going to be maybe if someone said something, you know, specific to what you think the council was looking for towards your goals. But maybe make a motion in a second and then have more discussion.
Mark?
Yeah, well, for me, I think what's very important is basically what you're saying. I agree with those points, but in addition to that, I'd like to add that I think it's very important in order to resolve issues, to have a chemistry with people. And that means for me, I like to go with facts and data and then to convey that to people without drama. So I like to look at the facts and data, and that's sort of what I'm looking for in people. And then to be able to convey that to the members here as well as to the city to give the case of why we're doing what we're doing. And those details it's the devil in the details, but that's what we need to be doing, I think. And that's the type of people I'm looking for. Someone that can work together as a group as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
So is there anyone that wants to make an initial nomination or
For like a person?
for a person? Or do you want me to do it? Or whatever?
This is where I'm like,
No, it's a public meeting.
It's a public meeting. No.
You can stay if you want to,
Just so everyone understands, there's nothing personal in any of this, you know, for any of
it's
us.
just,
It's, you know, it's honestly, it's really nice to see four
Yeah.
great people step forward.
Mr. Mayor,
There's,
we could point out that 3 people may walk out of here disappointed tonight if they don't get the nomination. There are other opportunities available, public works, planning and zoning.
oh yeah,
That have openings and stuff like that.
stole my thunder.
No, I'm sorry.
No, you're not. I agree with what Mark said, and I'm down. I will make a motion if that's appropriate. I would like to make a motion that we appoint Mark Fraley to the 2-year term of city council to fill out the term vacated by Mr. Hoff.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion. I like the directness and I also like the longevity, the years. You know, maybe Ross can speak to this as well as Don, but growing up here myself in Brainerd in this area, it's the difference from where it was to where it is now. I think everyone shares the same, there has to be growth to an extent. I mean, things are going to expand whether we want them to or not. We want them to expand the right way. And if you have the history of what this area used to look like to what it looks like today, the expansion hasn't always been good. But at the same time, growth isn't bad. We just need to manage it properly. So in that respect, I think everybody, you know, it used to be a big deal to drive to the Twin Cities and spend a weekend in the cities. Now it's, people drive down there to go to work and come back. I mean, the idea of commuting, so. But that's why I make the motion for Mark, so that's where I'm coming from.
I think whatever we do, it should be a unanimous vote.
I agree.
That would be beneficial. I do like the idea of having somebody on who has some background in city government. Normally, when you get up to this council level, you work your way through some of the lower committees. In my former life, my former city, I was on planning commission there and on public works and stuff like that. And you kind of learn what's going on. It gives you the background when you come in, rather than you come in just cold. And I didn't see that in Mark's. I just like to see a little experience coming in, but that's me.
I look at point taken. Military background, a managerial experience. But yeah, I see what you mean. I mean, speaking for myself, I didn't. You know. But-
I don't think there's any at the floor if we voted, whoever we vote for is going to be, some people would be sorry that we put in the position. I think they're all good people.
I guess if I were to be honest, and it was a really hard, and it was always said, but it really was hard because we had 4 very good candidates and any one of them would do a great job. But Mark, by the end of it, Mark was the one that was my first choice, partly because of his longevity, but also partly his comments of not being a micromanager, and you hire good people and you let them. I'm sure everyone else will probably be the same, but that was spoken. That is something that, you know, I truly believe is if we're going to pay somebody to do its job for the city, then we let them do it because that's why we're paying them. If there's a problem, then we deal with it. Otherwise, I just felt comfortable with, you know, his answers of going to the city administrator and other council. And I just, like I say, all of you guys there was just no wrong answer here. But honestly, if I had to be honest, that would have been my choice.
Mark?
Yeah, I guess myself too. I would actually say, even though we're the same name, Mark as well, another Mark. So, but the thing is, what I really liked was the no rumor, no gossip versus facts and data. That's one area that I liked, as well as the not micromanaging as well. But in addition, it was also easy for me to understand what Mark was saying compared to some of the others who were a little bit more rambling, not as concise.
Call the question.
Yes.
Call the question.
Oh, well, we have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Before we break up, there are positions open on the Public Works Committee and there isn't anything open on Public Works?
That's it. No other ones.
When did we fill it?
The last meeting.
We had,
Public Works.
We filled planning and zoning and parks at the last
So
meeting.
Public Works.
Public
is-
Public Works, that's it.
that's what we have openings on.
Correct.
Okay, so we have openings on Public Works. One thing the Public Works Committee does, on top of spending more money than any other department in the city, that planning issue. It's that roads and streets, it's sewer. And then you get the complication that sewer is an enterprise fund versus roads and streets, which are, you know, different. So there's a lot that goes on there. And since we started the Public Works Committee, and with the 2 members that are currently on there, still there, it's been, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but you were on it before you ran for council. It's been a godsend as a council member for me to sit down and listen and learn from these folks that bring other, you know, experience in from the outside. I'll tell you, you know, it's not knowing it or not understanding some of this stuff. It's really nice when you think one thing and then somebody explains to you why that can't happen. And to have that at that Public Works meeting is great. It's done a lot of really good work. So I would really encourage anyone who is, you know, that is not, if you want to get involved in the city, there's a great way to get involved. And it meets once a month. And planning and zoning on that committee, that takes up a lot of time. There's a lot to go over with P&Z. Public Works is a little less time demanding. So if you do have that, but no less important. So I would encourage anyone to please get involved with that. And if you have any questions about it, you can contact the city administrator and or set up a time and come in and talk to Tom Blommer, our Public Works Director. And he'd be happy to go over what the committee does.
And we actually have a meeting coming up on Wednesday too, so you
Yes,
can actually come and see what it's like.
very good. Yep, the meetings are the first Wednesday of every month at 5 p.m. here at City Hall. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make the motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, folks,
Thank
for
you,
coming.
guys.
Thank you.